Okie dokie, so I had some leftover red velvet cake and I thought, let's make something really fun. So you can see here I've cut my cake into triangles and now I'm stacking them up with some pink ganache. I then used that same pink ganache to cover the entire piece of cake. Once it was all smooth, it was time for the fondant. Now the type of cake that I'm making, it is a trend that's been around for a few months, but I haven't made one yet and I thought, I want to get in on the action. Every time I've seen one of these cakes, I have no idea where it originated, so shout out to the original creator because I wish I'd come up with this concept. But every time I see one, I'm like, it looks so cool. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's creating like a cartoon piece of cake. The comic book style cake, all the rage at the moment. And it's a super simple concept. You literally just line everything in black so that when the cake is sitting at a certain angle, it looks like a drawing. Like 100% looks like a cartoon. I had so much fun creating this cake. Like this afternoon was one of those days where I was like, this is my job and it rocks. Look at it. It looks like I've just put a clip art drawing of a cake in the picture. So after I posted that first video, a lot of people told me they didn't believe that it was actually a cake and that I had to cut it to prove it. So the next video was me cutting the cake. And this was one of those cakes that I really didn't want to destroy because I was so happy with it. But I cut it and the next video was me eating it. Okie dokie and holy bloody moly, this cake has gone nutso. And with every viral video, you get the negative Nellies bringing you down. People can't help themselves. But I also want to say thank you to everyone who pumped me up because I was really proud of this cake. My business partner Katie does all the baking and her cakes are so delicious. So all these comments about the cake being dry and looks inedible, you haven't eaten it. I've eaten it and it was delicious. The flavour of the cake is red velvet and it's super muddy, which means it's a heavier type cake with its own moisture in it. And the pink stuff in the layers is white chocolate ganache and it melts in the mouth and it is absolutely delicious. Okie dokie artichoke, my last cartoon cake went absolutely bananas, so I'm going to make another one. This time round, I'm going to use buttercream to decorate the cake and I'm going to make a cupcake. In the video now, I'm making the bottom of the cupcake and look at it just pop off the board like that, so satisfying. Also decided to stick with the same colour scheme because I love it, yellow, pink and aqua. As you can see that I added cake to the top of my cupcake as well and I'm doing the swirl around the outside, again so satisfying. And this was to keep the icing to cake ratio respectable. Couldn't forget the cherry on top and then it was time to pull out the extruder. So many questions about this bad boy. Basically you just stuff the fondant in and wind the handle and Bob's your uncle. Comes with a whole heap of different attachments too so you can do different shapes. Then it was time to add all my black lines to my chilled cupcake, so my buttercream was nice and firm. You can see I've got lines going down the side of the cake, and that's because I wanted it to look as 2D as possible. And there it is, there's the finished result. I think it's really cute. And I couldn't leave you without showing you the cake guts, so I cut it in half and just yum. Okie dokie, I've got a bit of a guessing game for you guys today. This cartoon cake is from a cartoon. And I thought it'd be really fun to see if you guys could guess what cartoon it's from before the end of the video when all will be revealed. I'm actually making this a little bit of a series where I do cakes from TV shows or games or cartoons. I just thought it would be really fun. So this is episode 1. So you can see I have got a yellow cake with a blue board. And now I'm coming in with some pinky purple icing. I've got some on top, I've got some around the edges, and I've also got a red candle. Next up, it's time for the extruder, and I'm not outlining my cake in black this time. I'm using sort of like a dark pinky red colour, and I also outlined the board as well in a dark blue. Looking good so far. Lastly, I added some lettering on top that says sorry. So there it is all finished. I love it. It looks so cool. And if you don't know what it is yet, it is from SpongeBob SquarePants. It's the one that Patrick puts down his pants. Classic. So since then, I haven't really done any more cakes from cartoons, but I do think that there is potential to do just anything from cartoons with this style of cake. So I think that's where I'm going to go with it. Stay tuned. Okie dokie artichoke, it's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm making myself a cake to celebrate. The best thing about making your own cake is you get to make it exactly how you want. So the inside is going to be checkerboard with a pale pink, hot pink and purple, and I'm sticking it all together with some aqua icing. Once it's all stacked up, it's time to cover the entire thing in icing. And I tell you what, doing a square cake, it takes a lot longer than a round one. So once I had it as perfect as I was going to get it, it was time to cover it in fondant. Now, I know a lot of people hate fondant and I don't care. This is my cake, not yours. I just love the look of fondant and how perfect you can get it, which is ideal for this trend, the cartoon trend. So you can probably guess I'm making a present. I'm making a birthday present cake for myself. Now, once again, because I'm making a cartoon cake, I lined everything in black so when the camera sits at a certain angle, it looks 2D. I didn't know if this one was going to work with the bow and stuff, but it did. It looks so cool. And the addition of those white highlights, I'm obsessed. Of course, I couldn't leave you without showing you those checkerboard cake guts. And it's just so fun. I mean, look at it. Happy birthday to me. Okie dokie, artichoke. Let's make a 2D watercolor watermelon cake. Watercolor watermelon coming at ya. So the 2D cake trend, the cartoon cakes, has been massive lately. I feel like I'm seeing them everywhere, which is not a complaint because I love seeing everyone's versions. I think it's such a cool trend. I myself have made quite a few of them, but from the very start, I've been wanting to do a watermelon slice. Now, because I've done quite a few of these cakes now, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I went with a watercolor version. I had this vision that it would look like a watercolor painting, and I love getting the paints out, any excuse to get the paintbrushes out because it makes me feel really arty. So you can see I had a watermelon shaped cake, I covered it in ganache and then white fondant, and then I just watercolor painted over the whole thing with edible paints. I finished it off with a black outline and then stood the cake up, had to paint the back of course, and I was so happy with it. I thought it looked so cool. It's just so satisfying to see it all come together, and I love watermelon so much, everything about them. Okie dokie, in today's video, I'm making a 3-tiered cake, but it's tiny. It's also going to be in black and white, and I'm going to try and make it look like a cartoon. So you saw at the start, I used cookie cutters to cut out my 3 tiers. I'm using a white chocolate mud cake with white chocolate ganache. And then I rolled out some fondant and just slapped it on all in one go. Next, using grey fondant, I added a drip effect over the 3 tiers. And then I added a border and a little detail on the top as well. And then it was time for the black outline. Normally I would use black fondant and that tool called the extruder, but I thought that would take way too long and way too fiddly, so I decided to pipe it on. Basically, I just outlined everything in the black, and I also went down the sides of the cake to give it that 2D effect when you look at it at the right angle. Finishing touches, I added some little white highlights and it's all done. My tiny 3-tiered black and white 2D cartoon cake. I was so happy with this one. It was something different, and I've got to show you the cake guts, of course, because it's just so satisfying. Okie dokie, so this one goes out to all the fondant haters out there. This is a cartoon cake using buttercream. So you can see I've stacked up some colourful layers. I've got pink, purple, aqua and yellow. I added some raspberry jam in the layers as well, and then I covered the whole thing in white buttercream for a crumb coat. And then you can see I've added the same colours in buttercream around the sides. Can I just say, how smooth does that buttercream look? Now, this particular cartoon cake is going to be an upside down ice cream drip cake. And for the first time, I did a buttercream drip, which is literally just melted buttercream. And how good's it look? Next up, it was time to add the cone on top. And then I piped around each colour in a white buttercream as like the frosting of the cake. And then, of course, the black outline, which makes it all look much more cartoony. The last thing to go on was the outline on the cone, and it made it look like a photograph. Like it had been copy and pasted on there or something. I just love the end result. It was so fun to make. And stay tuned because I'm going to cut it open and show you the cake guts. Okie dokie, why is cutting up a cake so satisfying? Most of the time, it doesn't bother me destroying the cakes that I make, but on a few rare occasions, it kind of has. Like, I've struggled to destroy it. Usually it's the cakes that have taken me days to complete that are the most heartbreaking. This one though was a really easy cake. I made it in a couple of hours and cutting it up was actually really fun. With tall cakes like this, I like to cut them crossways because it's so much easier and neater. And if you're wondering about flavour, it's a vanilla butter cake with buttercream and raspberry jam in the layers. And look how colourful and fun it looks cut up. Don't you just want to eat it?